What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Going the Distance MMA. Today we've got a really exciting day. We have the start of the Paramount era, UFC 324. CJ, how excited are we?
Yes, very excited. It's been a very long 6 weeks, even though there's been a ton of MMA on. Nothing hits like a UFC numbered card, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Aren't we all? So we're gonna be doing this one bottom to top. We've got some good betting and predictions here. Starting off with the first fight at welterweight, 170 pounds. We have the prelim opener, Ty Miller coming in at minus 480 versus Adam Fugit at plus 355. For Ty Miller here, you have a fighter who's 6-0. He's undefeated with one no contest. It was due to an eye poke. He poked the other guy, accident. It was a bad eye poke, is what it is. He was 3-1 as an amateur. He did lose his first fight by decision. He is 1-0 in professional boxing. This is a guy who normally wins by knockout or decision. He has really good MMA boxing, as he does have that boxing foundation. He in his fight against Charlebois, he had a really good death touch. This is a guy who's fairly long for the division, aggressive but measured, technical striking, powerful, and I think he does have a lot to offer just because of how young he is. On the other side, Adam Fugit, he's had a rough go of it in the UFC. He's 10-5, 2-3 in the UFC. He was 1-1 in LFA. He has lost 3 of his last 5. His last 3 losses are to very good competition, so you can't hate on him for it. He lost to Mike Malott, Mike Morales, and Islam Dulatov, finished by each. So you really can't hate on any of those losses. He's experienced a much higher level of competition. 4 of his 5 losses have been by finish. He seems very hittable. While that is against very skilled strikers, we could be looking at a skilled striker here. I'm not very impressed by his takedown defense. I'm not very impressed by his volume. He went really toe-to-toe with Josh Quinlan, who was 6-2 in the UFC, is now cut. He couldn't take down Josh Quinlan, so really not a great look in his only win in the UFC. So for this one, I think Ty Miller will knock out Adam Fugit, almost certainly. A young undefeated prospect, great stand-up, athletic. Fugit, like I said, has had some tough losses, but that win against Quinlan is all I need to see against mediocre comp that has already been cut. He couldn't shine at all. So for this one, for me, Ty Miller by KO. I'm predicting round 2 here. The only angle I see betting wise would be the KO at minus 125 if you want to take the risk. Not great value, but it seems to me like I'm very confident in this one. That's about all I see here. What do you got?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think it's Ty Miller all day here, and obviously you don't want to lay like minus 480 on a debutant, especially only 25 and he's only 6-0. But I mean, man, dude's boxing is really slick. Like I look back to his contender series fight against Drago. And oh my God, he landed some bombs. Drago is just maybe too tough for his own good. You know what I mean? He took a ton of damage. I don't think Fugit's durable enough to take those shots. And Drago was able to kind of try to get some of his own grappling going. Not that he's the best grappler. And like Miller seemed to know what he was doing in like the takedown defense aisle. So I think it's Adam is really going to struggle to get takedowns here. And again, like you said, he's been knocked out by really good fighters. Like Dulatov's got the death touch. You know what I mean? Michael Morales is unbelievable. He took Quinlan to a split, who Quinlan hits pretty hard, but like he's been pretty mediocre in the UFC. And I think the fight that I go back to, which is years ago now, like back in 2018, when it was LFA, where I think the guy's name was Killian Hill, who's like 4-2. Fugi got smoked in the first round by a straight, and I just think Miller's right hand, his hooks are just too on point, too powerful. So I think he topples him over at some point. So I think I'm definitely going to play knockout in a parlay with something else that's coming up later on the card. But yeah, for me, Ty Miller knockout.
Seems like we agree on this one.
Yeah.
The next fight, prelim here, we have at 135 pounds. This is Ricky Tercios coming in at plus 165, fighting Cameron Smotherman at minus 195. What you got here?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I always like Cam Smotherman. Like I feel like he hasn't been at the level he should be at in the UFC. Like he has a nice win over Jake Hadley as a gigantic dog in his day. I think that was his debut. Yeah, in his debut. And he looked good, man. He was landing like solid enough boxing, good kickboxing, solid power, like okay takedown defense. And then in his last 2, like Ricky Simone still has a little bit left, obviously. He's been fighting really well. Isn't a great matchup for Smotherman, who's definitely more of a striker. You know what I mean? And some there were spots where it was pretty like semi-competitive in the striking. And then the Series City fight was close also. I'm pretty high on City. He's really tough, rangy striker. And I think Smotherman can hang with those guys, but Tercios just like for me does not do enough. You know, like Sopai outworked him horrendously. Like I know Sopai gassed in the third, but he was just up so big that Tercios doesn't really have much finishing ability. So there's not much he could have done in that situation. Rosas Jr. tapped him, which I don't really hold him against him, but he looked terrible. Like he had a really hard time getting any sort of offense off because he's so low output. And then like his last win was in 2022 against Kevin Natividad by a split, who's cut, and that's just Tercio, the story of Tercio's career, man. He just fights on close margins. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna do a parlay of Smotherland on the money line with Ty Miller by knockout. I know it's a little square, but I'm just pretty confident about both. What about you?
I feel like we agree on pretty much every aspect here. For Tercios, this guy's 12-5, 2-3 in the UFC, lost his last two, three of last four. He has lost to some good guys, as you mentioned, Eamon Zahabi, Raul Rosas, Bernardo Sopai. That win by split decision, like I said, he does really tend to leave it close. Not much finishing ability. I do think that he's tough. His striking seems very mid. It just doesn't seem that dangerous. It seems very sloppy. I will say he has sneaky volume. Like he does tend to like hit you a lot. He doesn't do much, but on the numbers, he does tend to do pretty well. He has good takedown entries. In that the TV Dodd fight, he did get a couple good takedowns. Some go in the Sopai fight that did get reversed, but good entries. Not great takedown defense himself, but what I find is that he's a little bit freaky when he's on the bottom. Lots of interesting strikes, kind of weird BJJ from the bottom. Good scrambler, so like not someone who's comfortable to be on top of. He did get hurt to the body in early round three against Sapai, so that's something that did stand out to me as like a kind of a note for moving forward. He fights ugly, definitely has heart that can't be denied. He does set a pretty good pace, but like I said, not much finishing ability. Versus Cameron Smotherman on the other hand, this is a guy who's 12-6, 1-2 in the UFC, 2-loss streak. He did have a tough matchup against Ricky Simon, who I think has proved recently that he does have a lot left in the tank. Wins by KO and decision, loses the same way. He did get KO'd on the Contender Series in 2023. I do think against City, he showed some pretty bad get-up game. I wasn't really impressed with how he got up against City. And against Simone, the takedown defense wasn't there either. Now, that is Ricky Simone, and I think we have to be real here, that the takedowns coming from Simone, I think, are going to be a lot more high level than the takedowns coming from Ricky Tercios. So just because he couldn't necessarily defend Simone's takedowns doesn't mean that Ricky Tercios can. Also, if he's not getting coached by absolute idiots, they will have been working on his takedown defense since his last fight. In the past, too, it's been his blaring weakness. So as long as he does have coaches, and they do exist, and they do have brains, it should hopefully look a bit better. I think that on the feet, he certainly has the edge. More power, faster, cleaner, really nice, sharp boxing. So for this fight, I think Cameron Smotherman probably takes this. Probably he does take this. I think he probably takes it by decision. I just think Ricky Tercios he's just a tough bastard. So I think he's just gonna be hard to put away. But Cameron Smotherman should have the edge on the feet. Like I said, Tercios is slow and sloppy. Doesn't have great power. I do think that the weakness, like I mentioned, of Smotherman's takedown defense won't get exposed here. Tercios is just a little too slow, too sloppy, and just like I said, being taken down by Simone and Tercios are two very different things. For Tercios to win here, he's gonna have to do 15 minutes of cardio, wrestling, and staying safe. And I think if it stays on the feet, he gets that point to a decision. So in this fight, I like Smotherman on a money line somewhere to lay. As you said, I see that at minus 200. If you want to take a little more meat, you can get the decision at plus 100. A little risky. Another more conservative play is the fight to go the distance, but I personally like Smotherman's money line a little more. I just do think Tercios is very tough. If you don't like his side or that props, also some fighter props here to call my eye. Perhaps a Tercios takedown prop if you think he has the goods to take him down like Simone, or also a Smotherman's striking prop. Smotherman has great volume. I do see both of these guys potentially hitting their significant strike number in this one, especially if it goes late. So seems like we line up mostly on there. I do love that early Ty Miller KO with Cameron Smothers' money line. That is probably something I may put down as well. Next fight. This is one I'm excited for. Very excited for. This is a heavyweight fight and a rather exciting one between two guys that I would say are guys that I have my eye on that are currently on their way up in the heavyweight division. This is Josh Hokett versus Denzel Freeman. Hokett coming in the favorite at minus 225. Freeman coming in at plus 185. For Hokett, he's kind of like the Colby Covington of the heavyweight division in terms of his personality. Very, American bandana, ridiculous speeches. But he does have the goods to back it up. He's 7-0. He's a finisher. I will say, relatively untested for his record. Relatively. Very athletic for his size. He's not a huge heavyweight, but he's super fast. Fast takedowns, fast hands, vicious ground and pound subs. I originally didn't think his striking was that great on the feet until I saw his last fight. So he did show some really fast hands on the feet, which is impressive. Denzel Freeman on the other side, 7-1. He's won all three ways. mostly by knockout. His one loss is to decision. It is by a split decision in the PFL a while ago against some guy who's like a fat nobody. Didn't really look into that too much. He did submit Steven Asplund, which I'm very high on Steven Asplund. I think that that's a win that's aged very well. He's definitely a little more tested and proven just given the opponents he's faced up to this point. His debut is the one big hit I have on Denzel. I don't think he did nearly enough. I don't think he impressed anyone. A lot of people were looking forward to seeing his first fight, and it was just an underwhelming pitter patter decision. Good takedowns in the Asplund fight and good subs is really like the best of his game that I've seen, but I do think he has more that we haven't seen. For this fight, the main thing you have to think of is the bag that both of these athletes have. For Hoka, I think we've seen his bag. You know, he's got fast takedowns. He's got subs on the ground. He's got fast hands. Not super technical, but fast, athletic. For Denzel, I don't think we've seen his whole bag. He has great offensive wrestling that I've seen. He's got submissions. You got to think that with how good his offensive wrestling is, his defensive wrestling must be somewhat educated, which could create problems here. I haven't seen enough to see any huge blaring weaknesses on the feet, just kind of a lack of activity, but you have to think that's kind of a learning lesson. I think Freeman is actually worth the stab here. I know a lot of people disagree, but I think he is. I think he has a lot more to offer than he's shown in his last fight. He has more tools in his tool belt. I think for my prediction, I would say a Denzel Freeman round 2 submission is my prediction. But for this fight, the angle I like is just his money line, playing meat on the bone at plus 185. That's what I think here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you bring up really good points. We've known about Hokit since he was like 2-0, right? In LFA, kind of just smashing guys. Like the fight that I saw for the first time was the John Lopez fight. He just like got back mount and pounded him out in like under 3 minutes. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, this dude, really good grappler. I think he wrestled at Fresno State. So really good athlete, really good grappler. But I mean, like, what has he done to warrant this price tag against a fellow wrestling heavyweight that has like a Greco-Roman style that's historically really tough to take down? I don't really know, especially if you think the wrestling kind of cancels each other out and it's a low volume kickboxing match. Like, I think you like Freeman all day. I think people are really low on him because he didn't look great against the dude in his last. But I mean, I don't really hold that against him. You know, like it was his debut. He still won pretty handily. I think he 30-27 to him, or at least he should have.
He did.
And yeah, I just think if Hogan can't take Freeman down, how does he get to minus 225? So for that reason, I'm definitely going to take a stab on Denzel Freeman.
And they agree on the underdog. That's always good to see. You always love
I
to see
know.
it. Denzel Freeman is a play to look out for.
Yep.
Next fight here, we have another prelim. We have Michael Johnson plus 125 versus Alex Hernandez at minus 155. What do you got here?
Yeah, so I'm actually obviously super familiar with both these guys. We could start on the Michael Johnson side. The definition of a coin flip fighter, right? It kind of depends what version of him you get. And when taking fighters like that, you do want the dog money. I mean, he's fought everyone. He's coming off of a massive win over Daniel Zellhuber in the weirdest fight you've ever seen, right? Zellhuber's like minus 700, should have killed this guy, but just kind of laid an egg and didn't really do much. But I mean, he still has fast hands, like good boxing combinations. He's a vet man. Like all of his fights are in the UFC. He's fought the who's who. But I mean, other than the Zellhuber fight, like Darius Flowers probably should have never been in the UFC. Amin Azaitar, we've seen how the run he's been on, he's definitely cut, right? And other than that, he's been KO'd. What stuck out to me was that brutal KO against Diego Ferreira. When that happened, I was like, oh no, this dude's chin, he's getting older. I think this dude's chin's gonna go after that. But I mean, he's still winning fights. But as of recent, he hasn't really fought the best guys in the world. Like his wins, other than Zellhuber, are Zaitar, Flowers, Mark Diakese, who's a solid win, and then Alan Patrick, who's obviously no longer in the UFC. And I don't know, man. I just think I know a lot of people don't like Alexander Hernandez. They meme on Alexander Hernandez. I guess he's another coin flip fighter. But I think there's a lot to love in that Chase Hooper fight. Like he showed really fast hands. He got the early KO. He's always been an explosive athlete, like good striker. And also he just KO'd Diego Ferreira too, which is a great win too. So I just think he's kind of finding his groove. He's won 4 straight, I think, for the first time in his career since pre-UFC. So like you love to see that. I mean, he's not the oldest person. He's 33, but it really seems like he's kind of seasoning. And this weight class definitely fits him better than 145. So for that reason, I just think Hernandez gets an early finish here. Like I think in rounds 1 or 2, he gets the knockout at some point. If it gets to like halfway through the second, it does get a little sketchy. But it's not like Michael Johnson's like a cardio machine. So for that reason, I probably will take Alexander Hernandez. I like the under. I don't know how the under's plus money. I think Hernandez puts himself in bad spots too. And Michael Johnson is a 39-year-old lightweight. So Yeah, give me the under. Definitely gonna play the under. Maybe Hernandez ITD. Kind of depends on the price. What about you?
This is another one where we're on the same side. We actually do not convene about our picks before these
I
takes.
know, I
I'm
know.
also on Hernandez
It's
here for this
scripted. It's
fight.
scripted. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
it's totally scripted. So for this fight, first for Johnson, 24-19, 31 UFC fights, shooting about even 50% win rate there. He's 16-15. He is on a 3-win streak after that huge Zellhuber win, giant win for him. Most of his wins are by KO and decision. He has lost all 3 ways, mostly by submission and decision. As you mentioned, crazy experience. Fought the best in the world: Khabib, Dustin, Nate Diaz, you name it. 39, so getting older. Still looked great. Looked great in his last fight. Was really fast against Zellhuber. Good volume, super fast given his age. Good power. I believe he has some of the highest knockdown numbers at lightweight. He knocked down Zellhuber in the second, which was incredible to see. Good body work. He's very composed. He's been everywhere in the sport. Fast ground and pound, fast pocket combos. For a 39-year-old, you have to really like what you see out of him. For Hernandez on the other side. Also, by the way, I was watching tape on Johnson. I saw him fight Ottoman Azaitar. That is the potato guy. I had to check and make sure.
Yeah.
Azaitar is Mr. Potato.
What was in the
Ali
bag,
Abdelaziz,
man?
yeah, it's
What
it's
was in the
potatoes, guys. It's
bag?
potatoes. Alexander Hernandez. I wouldn't climb a balcony for potatoes myself, but sometimes you're that hungry. Um,
Maybe. Yeah.
Alexander Hernandez, he's 18-8, 17 UFC fights. He's 10-7 there. He is riding a 4-fight win streak, as mentioned, 2 knockouts in a row. Wins by KO and decision. Lost all 3 ways, mostly by KO and decision. He's a bit more short and stocky. He is a ball of muscle. Great power. In his last fight, he had that buzzer beater KO in round 1 against Chase Hooper, where he was a pretty sizable underdog coming in at, I believe, just under plus 300. He's a slick striker. Definitely likes to be on the feet, as does Michael Johnson. Good takedowns. Showed it in the Kurt Holloway fight. Really impressive takedowns. Good control when he's down there. For Hernandez, I'm actually quite hot on him here. Like he has that 4-win streak. He came in as a pretty big prospect in the UFC, and he had a rough go of it at first. I think he just came in with kind of a too much confidence and kind of the wrong mindset. And I think after getting some losses, he learned from that. And I think we're seeing him come into his own and kind of realize what his style is and what he is and what he isn't. And I think we're about to see a bit of an Alexander Hernandez run here, if I do say so
I
myself.
would love that.
I don't mind that myself either. Super exciting. So my prediction here, as mentioned, both these guys have momentum. So this is pretty exciting here at lightweight. I think that the speed advantage is to MJ. I do have to say, even though he's older, he's just so fast. But I think the power advantage is most certainly to Alexander Hernandez. Both guys are comfortable standing. They want to stay standing, but Hernandez has the better ability to bring it to the ground on his own, but by his own means. I think this could go the whole way, but I would expect it to end early via knockout one way or the other, at least before the bell. I do lean Hernandez, power edge, those takedowns he can use if he needs it. So the money line is a good play here at minus 162. I also don't hate the under either. You can kind of use it as a cover situation. I might not play the Alexander inside the distance and play both to kind of cover myself if it goes over or under. So the place here for me would be the under 2.5 and the money line at just around minus 160. Up next here, we have another prelim. We have Alex Perez at plus 150, fighting Charles Johnson coming in at minus 170. This is another one I'm looking forward to watching. Alex Perez, he's 25-10, 13 UFC fights. He's got 7-6 in the UFC. He has been finished in his last 2, notably with that bad injury to Tetsuro Taira. We were on Perez. He was looking good, but really nasty injury. Tetsuro was on the back of the figure 4, just kind of wrenched the knee out wrong. He wins all 3 ways, mostly by decision. Lost all 3 ways, mostly by submission. He has lost 4 of his last 5, again, fighting the best of the division, but he has lost quite a bit recently. He's solid on the feet. He's a good brawler. He's got a nice blitz. He's a good takedown. He's got a nice wrestling base. He's well-rounded, but then again, everyone is a flyweight, but he's really a good jack of all trades with a nice wrestling base, is how I think Alex Perez in the division. For Charles Johnson, 18-7, 12 UFC fights. He's run 7-5 in the UFC, 6-1 in LFA. He has won 5 of his last 6 fights, so there's a huge momentum difference here. 2 of those notable wins, the first one being Joshua Van, current champion. Great win. Huge momentum from that win. Second, Loner Kavanaugh. It's another buzzword name of the division. I did take Charles Johnson there. I was never as high on Kavanaugh, but he is undoubtedly a big name in the division. Can't take that away. That's another good win here. He has won all 3 ways, mostly by KO and decision. All losses by decision. He has never been finished. I always love to see that. He's taller. He's longer. He has more reach. Certain striking edge. Faster and more powerful on the feet. I would think Charles Johnson would want this fight to stay standing, as he does in all of his fights. He's durable. He's got great recovery. He has some good desperation takedowns. If it does, get that nasty for him, he showed that in round one against Temirov. He showed good get up in that fight against Temirov. That is the recent loss that's kind of a bad spot on his record. But I think Temirov is a super underrated prospect of flyweight right now. Crazy win streak. He's jacked. Like, he doesn't even look like flyweight. He's huge. He hits hard. One of the hardest hitters in the division, and very not talked about enough. Temirov. So I don't hate that loss at all. Another thing about Charles Johnson you have to like is he builds into fights. He's at 100% in round three. He might not be at 100% in round one, but he will build into it. Good takedown defense. He did struggle a little bit in the fight with Rafael Estevam, but that's some crazy chain wrestling that Estevam brings. And Estevam, I think his only skill really is wrestling. He's not well rounded. That one thing he does, I think his chain wrestling is better than any wrestling Alex Perez can bring. So being that Johnson did have an 80% takedown defense there, I think it's a pretty good look coming into this fight. For this one, I'm definitely leaning Charles Johnson. I think the momentum difference is huge. If this stays on the feet, I think it's easily Johnson. I think Perez has a good wrestling foundation, but it's not enough to chain wrestle like Estevam did with that 80% plus defense rate from Charles Johnson in that fight. So I just think this is going to be a standard Johnson slugfest building into the fight. I think it's going to be either a late KO or decision. My prediction is a Charles Johnson decision in terms of plays here. Love the money line at minus 170. Love it. You can take the decision if you'd like. It's at plus 165. It is a little risky because I could see a late KO. My blessing here. Ready? Drum roll. Charles Johnson, round 3 KO, plus 2,200. Put her there. I will definitely be sprinkling that. That is a Charles Johnson classic. So that's my thoughts here. What do you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always loved Alex Perez. Like, he was one of my favorite fighters at flyweight. Like, very exciting to watch. Like, has fun fights, very well rounded. But man, it just seems like the injuries just killed him. Like, if you look at his Tapology page, he's had so many canceled fights just because of injuries. Like, he blew his knee out against Tyra in a fight he was looking really good. And I don't know, I'm pretty high on Tyra, maybe a future champ, right? And then the Amzu fight, Amabayev, like, man, he looked really good until he didn't. Like, he was up big. I think he was like in the 500s on the live line, right? Like, looked like Amzu had nothing for him, and he's always been weak to submissions, right? But like, you would give him a pass on Pantoja, right? It was a quick sub. Figueiredo, a quick sub. And it's like he hasn't subbed that many people, you know what I mean? At least at this level. And he just grabbed the guillotine choke and finished it. But like, historically, like this fight a couple of years ago, I would love Alex Perez. I think he's got really good low kicks. I don't think Charles Johnson's submission threat, and while he's a good grappler, I don't think his submission threat is as high as these other guys. And also, like, Johnson's always been susceptible to low kicks because he's so long. But I think this version of Perez, man, really struggles. I think the last time he looked good was against Nicolau, and he knocked him out. But again, Nicolau was on like a horrible run after that, right? He was definitely a shell of himself. But like, Charles Johnson, the other side, man, you can't keep doubting this dude. Like, that huge KO over Kavanaugh, which was really weird. He like left the pocket with his hands down like this. There's like a still shot screenshot on Twitter that I saw that I sent to you like when it happened. I was like, what is this guy doing? He had his hands down and just like left the pocket like this and got blasted. But yeah, but he was winning that fight. He was looking good. You know, it wasn't like he just caught him. Like, he was setting that up all fight. Looked good. Good striker. Very well rounded. I mean, knocked out Josh Van like you brought up. Huge. He's the current sitting champ. I didn't think he looked great against Sumadarji, but Sumadarji can, if you're just going to stand and strike with him, like, he's not an easy fight, and also he's able to match the length of Charles Johnson. Beat Jake Hadley pretty easily, beat Maxim, and like you said, those 3 losses in a row, not only were they, like 3 years ago now, it was all people that are mixing in takedowns consistently, and I just don't see Perez doing that at this stage of his career. So for that reason, I would take Charles Johnson, but I do think it's a decision.
Seems like we are pretty much on the same page here as well. For the next fight, we have another prelim. This is Nikita Krylov at plus 120 against Modestas Bukauskas at minus 145 at light heavyweight. What do you got here?
I guess we could start on the Modestas side because, you know, he's actually winning fights in the big 2025 and 2026. But he's on a nice little run. He knocked out Paul Craig brutally with that elbow on the bottom, which is pretty nasty. But I do think Craig's way over the hill. And has been KO'd a ton of times. Apparently, he beat Ion Cutelaba. I think we both had Cutelaba bet there. In what world did he win 2 of the 3 rounds in that fight? Not a world we live in, but apparently they give it to him. I mean, Rafael Sequeira, like, you would probably take a stab on me in a cage against him, and it would be like a system play, and you wouldn't be like, oh, that was a horrendous bet. Like maybe I would have a couple moments against Sakara. And then Prachniow, who he arm triangle choked late into the third, if I remember correctly. So I'm not super high on any of those guys. And again, he's always had like some, I guess, chin issues. Like he KO'd by Jimmy Crute in 2020. Roundtree with that brutal. I guess that's not really his problem. That was a weird kick, but that brutal oblique kick blew his knee. Petrino knocked him out brutally, which none of those are bad fighters. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he reacts well to shots, and he's had very favorable matchups here. Um, but like not enough to jump on the Krylov side, man. Like I've been, I bet him in his last two because like historically great grappler, like finisher, will offensively wrestle. You know what I mean? Has that submission win over Ryan Spann, knocked out Alexander Gustafsson not too long ago. That win over Uzdemir has aged pretty well, but man, it just seems like his chin is all the way gone. Like the way he got hit by Reyes, like in the I think it was the Reyes fight where he got jabbed, or it might have been the Guskov fight, but he got like jabbed and did the like stanky leg and was hurt bad. And I was like, oh man, his chin is really starting to go. For someone that once upon a time took a round off Ankalaev, like dude, it seems like his best days are behind him. So I don't have any interest in playing the Modestas side because I do think there's a world where like Krylov gets takedowns, and I don't think Modestas, even though he has a couple of finishes, I don't think he's the biggest puncher or like a potent finisher. But maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe Krylov is just all the way shot. So I'd probably take some sort of under, even 1.5. I don't hate because that covers Krylov's win condition. I don't think he's getting in. I don't think he's extending Modestas to 2-3. So under 1.5. If I had to pick a side. I guess Modestas. I just think Krylov shot. But yeah, violence here. What about you?
Same page once again, not scripted. For Krylov, you have guys 30-11, 20 fights in the UFC. He's gone 11-9. Lost his last two by knockout, as mentioned. He is a finisher. He has lost all three ways. In most of his losses, he has been finished. He is dangerous everywhere, can't be denied. But as you mentioned, that chin has looked super questionable. Both of those recent KO losses, I bet on him. Both of them were super disappointing. One of them cost me a huge parlay. And I'm like, to my grave, I will say Krylov at one point was one of the most underrated light heavyweights on the roster. Well, one of the most
100%.
underrated fighters on the roster, period.
100%.
Because at one point he was that good. But at that point, it's like, at what point do I give up on him? Like I said it the first time, slumped. Then he was gonna fight. He's gonna fight again. I was like, all right, it's all right. Shit happens. Bet again, slumped. So it's like, how many times am I gonna let myself look stupid? I think last time was the last time. This is a small drop in competition, but like we said, slept by Reyes, slept by Guskov, both times round one. He is aggressive and dangerous standing when his chin doesn't get shattered by a gust of wind. He has some good grappling, as he's shown, good scrambles for a big man in that span fight. But just I'm done taking shots on him. I've seen what I have to see to say. I think he's done. For Bukowskis on the other side, 19-6. He has at 11 UFC fights, going 7-4. He does have some momentum, running a 4-fight win streak. Some of those wins I think are kind of lame, as mentioned. Zakaria win, not great. But I do like the Kudalaba win, even though I don't think he won. It's still a good name on your resume. And I don't hate Marcin Prachniow. I don't think he's horrible. Not an overwhelmingly impressive run, but not horrible. He has won all three ways, mostly by knockout. Lost all three ways, mostly by knockout. Not great volume here. His striking, Modesta, is very one-dimensional. Pretty much every single thing he does is just a 1-2 that he throws straight down the pipe. It is fast and it is good, but it's super repetitive. He doesn't have a lot of variation standing. He does have good takedown defense. I think he has strong hips from what I've seen. He had a close fight with Kutalaba, which is a better name, like I said, because I think Serkari is maybe the worst to do it ever.
Yeah.
He can shoot some takedowns. He can secure some chokes. He's on the Prachniow fight, so not horrible, but like I said, super one-dimensional striking. Here, it may not matter. Big step up for Modestas if Krylov is what he used to be. A small step down for Krylov. Like I said, super underrated for Krylov, but it's just I can't go with that chin anymore. Prime Krylov mows Bukowskis, mows him, but Prime Krylov does not exist anymore. One of those 1-2s I think is going to KO Krylov at some point. If Krylov can figure out that combo and keep his chin safe, it could get interesting. Either way, I do expect this to end fairly early. My prediction is Bukowskis KO round one. But the angles I like here, you can take the side at -150 if you'd like. You can also take the KO at plus 120. Neither of them are overwhelming. I do like the money line a little more just because there's not much of a value difference there. I as well have the under 1.5 circled. I think this covers probably 70% of wins for both these guys. So I don't hate that in a parlay somewhere or even straights. It seems like we're on the same page for this one
Yeah.
as well.
Let me just say a disclaimer. Sakari would kill me, and I was joking. With one punch, he would knock me into oblivion. Yes, just joking.
I don't know, Sakaria. I think this is a personal challenge. If you want to email us at goingthedistancemma@gmail.com, you can set up a one-on-one and we will record it and post it.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes.
next prelim, we have Teva Gauthier versus Andre Pulyaev. Gauthier coming at minus 900. Andre Pulyaev coming in at plus 600. On here we have plus 575. This is I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I mean
Yikes.
the it's like the Abdul Malik fight on the last card. It kind of seems like this is like the last pay-per-view or two pay-per-views ago. The first episode we did kind of seems like this is public execution. Like Gautier is murderous, gigantic for the weight class, gigantic puncher, really fast hands. Seems like his hips. I mean, not the greatest guys are trying to wrestle him. Like Tristan Vines isn't the greatest and has been knocked out a ton. But you mean to tell me he hits you like that? You're not responding. You're not getting KO'd. Like, I don't know, man. Especially Parayev, who's like a Russian striker. Like he's big, like I guess decent at range. He went to decision with CDL, Christian Leroy Duncan, but like he didn't look good. He just got held up against the cage. He didn't really do much. The Nick Klein fight was dicey early, which is a horrendous sign, even though he got the win there. Liam Anderson, like, what do you think Atiba Gautier would do to Liam Anderson? Horrible things, maybe murder in the cage. So yeah, I think I'd spent more time than I should have on this fight, but I think Gautier clips him early and often. No meat on the bone though. He's 23. He's going to be very good. What about you?
I mean, yeah, there's not too much to say. Tevin Gauthier 9-1, 3-0 in the UFC, all KOs, KO in the Contender Series. I do think he's almost like the UFC's current Frankenstein. He's like the freak they're building in their lab, is how I think of him. He did get beat by split decision early in his career by some random guy who like never fought again. That guy's
Yeah.
just like some myth.
Hmm.
But this guy's ridiculous power. I mean, look at that picture. He's a super athlete. He's a
Hmm.
brute. He has pretty good boxing, given that he's a brute. Like it's brute boxing, but it's good. He's got good knees. He has a terrifying presence. It's like imagine fighting Darth Vader. It's like what it's like.
Yeah.
On the other side for Pulyaev, he's 10-3, 1-1 in the UFC. He did win on Contender Series by decision. He did lose to CLD as mentioned by decision, which is not a bad loss. Beat Nick Klein by KO. I do think that this is a small step up for Ateba. Ateba's been fighting mostly cans. Like I said, Frankenstein, but this is definitely a small step up. Pulyaev has won all three ways, mostly by KO, lost by decision and knockout. He's got good movement. He fights really well moving backwards, and he's very long. I think he's tricky to find, which is why CLD couldn't finish him. He's just hard to hit. He's elusive.
Yeah.
I think that backward movement that he's so comfortable doing and he's so good at doing could get him in trouble here, just because of the way Ateba fights. Like if you back up against the cage against Ateba, he's gonna do worse to you than CLD will in terms of violence. So for this one, like I said, small step up for Ateba. At this point, Ateba's been given the worst of the division. I think Pulaev is not great, but I don't think he's the worst of the division. You know, he's a good technical striker, strangely comfortable with that backwards pace as mentioned. I think Ateba gets it done here. Eventually he finds him. But I just think that because of that awkward backwards movement and that elusive nature, it may take a little longer than you'd expect. So my prediction, and again, a little bold prediction. I think we might see Pulaev make it to round two. And I have to say, Ateba round two knockout is at plus 300. Round one, I believe, is minus money, and like I tend to like doing this. If you have someone whose round one KO is like juiced to round two, you can only get some good value on. That worked for me in a fight recently. It's not. I can't think of it. It doesn't matter at this point. But I do like that round two KO, probably plus 300. The fight to start round two as well, if you want to be, is minus 110. But I think if it gets to round two, it's not getting round three. So I like the round two KO prop here. I think you could be surprised. It may take a minute to find Andre. That's it, and you can bet on that at
Yeah.
plus 300. So why wouldn't you? I think. But it seems like we're pretty much on the same page
Yeah.
here.
Was the fight you were thinking of the Asplin fight? Because wasn't he chalked
No.
to win in round one? Oh, was it? Oh, I thought it
It's
was.
so embarrassing I can't think of the name, which is why
No,
I'm moving on,
it's
but we'll figure it out
yeah.
off this
And
call.
also, Glenn Williams is the guy who took beat Atiba by split. That dude's gonna be at like a Buffalo Wild Wings like 10 years from now, when Atiba's got like there's like a double champ or something. He's like, I beat that guy.
I beat him. Yes, but the guy, yeah, I did, yeah,
He's the
100%.
inaugural champ, man.
100%, absolutely. This next fight at 135, this is the prelim headliner. You have Umar Nurmagomedov at a whopping minus 1,500 against Davison Figueiredo at plus 825. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, I wish this fight happened a lot earlier for Figueiredo's sake, as someone who's a fan of him. But I just think, like, I think 15 to 1 as if that big of a favorite's like ridiculous, or like 1 to 15 is ridiculous, like minus that much money against a former champ. Especially someone like Figueiredo who historically maybe is at 125, but is has fight ending power, has fight ending capabilities. But man, I don't know. He just looks like he's kind of lost a step. Like Umar looked great. I know a lot of people don't like Mario Batista after he kind of cage pushed what's his name? Jose Aldo. But dude's a good fighter. Like he did really well, was really good in the scrambles with Batista. It sucks that fight wasn't 5 rounds. But yeah, looked good, pretty dominant. Against Marab, he had a ton of moments, but Marab, once the washing machine gets going, you can't really stop it. So he just kind of got cooked to the bone late. We watched that fight together. We were hyped as people who were bet Marab. But I mean, there was things to like from that, like great takedown defense, great chain wrestling defense, like good striker, very solid. Beat up Corey Sandhagen. I actually bet Sandhagen in that fight that he would be closer. Umar pretty much handled him in every aspect of MMA. Um, I don't even think it was on purpose, but he accidentally KO'd Ronnie Barcelos. Like he was on the leg, got a look away hook and just smoked him, which I guess is a good win, especially back then. He's just been very dominant other than the Marab fight. And then Figueiredo, on the other hand, man, 38 years old in the smaller weight class is kind of a death sentence. He beat Montel Jackson based off of Montel Jackson really not doing anything. He kind of just stared at him. Blew his knee against Corey Sandhagen, which really sucks, but he looked pretty rough up until that point. Even in the grappling, which you would think if he had any moments against Sandhagen, it would be in the grappling. Got beat up by Peter Yan in a main event in China, which no shame in that. Peter Yan's a great fighter. Dropped Marlon Vera though, so his power is always there. It always will be there. He's got a really good guillotine choke also. Not saying he just hits Umar with it, but like at a crazy number, like I don't know what sub is off the top of my head. I could look, but like if I had to play Figueiredo, it would need to be like some like a sub or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I think Umar, but I would not touch this line whatsoever. I wouldn't even touch an over under, although I do think it goes over. But yeah, I guess Umar is the cop out. But yeah, give me Umar. What about you?
I do agree here. I believe I saw Figgy sell at plus 1,800 is
Yeah,
the number I
wow.
saw. For this one, Umar 19-1, that one loss to Marab. He's 7-1 in the UFC, never been finished. Wins mostly by decision and submission. Clearly, in Nurmagomedov, he has that crazy doggy chain wrestling and control that we all have seen and love so much. He is a good striker as well. Similar to Islam, he is one of those doggy wrestlers who has that striking background as well. I will say, interesting note, did get caught in round two by Batista with a knee. Just notes
True.
itself, kind of wild. He also like just so you know how good this guy is. He came in as a large favorite against Marab as a challenger who is widely considered the bantamweight goat. So clearly this guy is one of the best. Figgy on the other side, 25 5-1, 20 UFC fights, 14 5-1. He's one of in his last three. He's won all three ways, lost all three ways, lost to some of the best fighters, some super elite fighters. He's got some good trips and takedowns of his own. He's okay on the feet. He's got some good submission game as well. Getting older, as you mentioned. Historically, Figgy is not impossible to take down. Once he's down there, he's got great scrambles, sub threat. But I think that Umar absolutely will be able to take him down. And then Umar brings a unique control that is not seen often in this division, and that control is just going to shut down that usual ground threat posed by Figgy. I think this is going to go to a decision. Umar, I do think Figgy's tough, will be hard to finish. Betting angles here. The over 2.5. You said you don't like overs unders. I actually don't mind the over 2.5 at minus 175. Your biggest threat here, I think, is that Umar pulls off a sub or that Davison gets hurt. But I don't hate the over there at that value. Talk about value. If you just wanted to take a stab on Figgy money line, you could. I don't love it, but plus 850 is a little wild just given who he is. But I don't take it here. I'd be interested to see Umar's takedown line. There always is that risk that he takes him down once or twice and then the fight ends. But if that's low enough, I'd be interested. But I don't hate the over 2.5 here myself. I think that's probably the angle to play here if you were to play one. We have made it to the main card.
Good
This is
fight.
the main card opener. Arnold Allen at plus 220 against John Silva at minus 265. This is perhaps the fight I'm looking the most forward to. Arnold Allen, 20-3, 13 UFC fights. He's 11-2, lost 2 of his last 3. A decision loss to Evloev and a decision loss to Holloway. He has won all 3 ways, mostly by decision and knockout. Never been finished. He's tough as nails. People forget, man. People forget who Arnold Allen is. He is a top featherweight who went on a ridiculous tear initially in the UFC. He would have had a shot against Volk for the title if not for Max Holloway. At the time, it was a very unique division where there was a champion and then there was a gatekeeper to the champion that just couldn't get past the champion. But in order to get the champion, he had to get through Holloway. And had he not been there, this would have been a title challenger. He couldn't get by Holloway. I think he's massively underrated after the 2 close losses he had. He's a great brawl style striker. He's a southpaw, great pressure, great chin, which has yet to be cracked, as mentioned. Great recovery, tough as nails, as mentioned, durable. Lost to Evlov because of takedowns. Lost to Holloway because he just got slightly outstriked by one of the best MMA boxers ever, toe-to-toe fight. I don't think he's going to be dealing with the Evloev takedown threat. This should stay on the feet. And I don't necessarily I think John Silva is a freak on the feet, crazy power, but I don't think he's technically at the same level as Max Holloway. Gene Silva, 16-3, 6 UFC fights, 5-1. He lost his last by that nasty spinning elbow KO to Diego Lopez. I believe that mark is still very visible on his head when I saw him. So I think that's he's like almost how Khalil's nose is messed up forever. He's messed up forever from that. That was gnarly. Wins mostly by knockout. He's a couple subs there as well. Loses by decision and knockout. Before the Diego loss, he hadn't lost since 2018. He has that impressive Kevin Vallejo's decision win on Contender Series, which has aged beautifully. Definitely has a power edge here. Allen has great knockout power as well, but I would give the power edge to Gene Silva. Dangerous. He's sort of a technical brawler. He's a brawler as well, but surprisingly technical given the way he brawls. He also can grab chokes well. If you look at that Bryce Mitchell fight, he can grab chokes like a freak. He got KO'd by the only elite striker he's faced up to this point, the only elite, which is Diego Lopez. And I would put Arnold Allen in that category of elite strikers. For this fight, as long as it lasts, I think it stays on the feet. I think it could go a little later than people expect just because of how tough these guys are. I think that Silva does pose probably the biggest finishing threat because of power, but Arnold could certainly KO him. And Arnold has never been KO'd. So, super hot take. And I think we were mentioning this earlier, so I'm apologizing for taking your point. We were mentioning how we think Arnold Allen has just as good of a chance to KO Gene Silva, if maybe not a little more, in our opinion. Silva does well against less than elite UFC fighters that he can gesture at and taunt at and look 50 times better than. But when it's someone like Diego Lopez in front of you that's an elite striker, that toying in those games don't work. Allen is on that level. Allen falls into that category. For me, I love this underdog of plus 215. I predict this fight going to a decision, actually. Arnold Allen by a crazy war decision. The betting angles for me here are Allen moneyline at plus 215. I do like some overs, as mentioned. It depends on how crazy you want to go. The over 1.5 is minus 255. The fight start round 3 is minus 165. So both, it's a bit of risk for that price. So my favorite play, well, don't mind the overs. My favorite play is just Allen straight on the money line. I think there's great value here. I think he's a good shot. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to agree. I think it's definitely Allen all day here. Like maybe he just gets smoked early, but that's always a threat with Jean Silva. But I think he is defensively sound. I think he's got one hell of a chin on him. Underrated attribute about him, like he ate some. I know Holloway's not the most one hitter quitter, power striker, but dude lands all early and often, and that was a 5 round fight, and he ate some big shots and had some moments against Holloway, and that was a couple years ago when before Holloway lost any kind of step, like Holloway was still the guy. That win over Giga Chikadze was in 2024. Looked good, man. Like Giga's a really good kickboxer. And yeah, Allen just kind of beat him to the punch. Was fine dealing with the kicks. Was able to land kicks of his own. I thought he beat Evloev. I know that maybe is a hot take, but that was a really close fight. I know it says unanimous, but man, close fight. Like he did the more damaging shots. His chain, not that he's gonna need it here, but his chain wrestling defense was really good. Was a lot better than I expected. He looked good in that fight. Again, went to decision with Holloway back in 2023. finished Dan Hooker really early. I know that was Hooker at 145, but still a pretty solid win. Sadiq Youssef, way like 2021. He beat him by decision. And the only other two I want to bring up here are two goats. Two of my favorite fighters are Makwan Americani. He beat by split in 2017, and then the PFL goat Mads Burnell, which he front choked. Love me some Mads Burnell, but good, like solid wins even back then when he was younger. And then I guess Jean Silva on the other side was on a really good run until Diego Lopez, and Jesus, did that spinning elbow hit. And I think, like you said, that's a part of him for the rest of his life. That spinning elbow was ridiculous. I think that fight, like, yeah, he landed some bombs on Diego Lopez, who's got legendary durability, but I think it exposed that Jean Silva's striking defense is not as good as everyone thought it was. Like, he was getting hit by shots too. I know spinning elbows, like, is a fight ending technique, but man, he had his hands fully down, was running into the pocket with his hands down, and got knocked out. Before that, like you said, the Bryce Mitchell fight got that front choke, kind of like a club and sub was beating him up. And I guess other than Bryce Mitchell, like Drew Dober had a ton of moments too in like a back and forth brawl, which he ended up getting the cut stoppage late, but that was a pretty close fight up until then. And I guess like Vallejos was a good win, like you said, but he was really young. I guess his best win was knocking out Jourdain. I guess that has aged really well, but again, that was at 145. Like Jourdain kind of looks like a different animal now. So yeah, I don't really know how Silva gets to this number unless he gets an early KO, which has never happened. So yeah, for that reason, I'm definitely gonna go with Allen. I think he's got more than enough striking capabilities to keep it close, and I wouldn't be crazy surprised if he mixes in some of the grappling himself.
Seems like we're on the same page with this dog as well. Always like to see dogs that we unanimously agree on.
Yeah,
This next fight, this is a women's fight. I believe this is the first women's fight and the only women's fight on the card, if I'm not mistaken. For this fight, we have Rose Namajunas coming in at plus 285, fighting Natalia Silva, coming in at minus 340. I believe this line is wider now, if I'm not mistaken. It may have narrowed.
definitely,
I
definitely.
believe Natalia Silva is over minus 400 now. This fight is at flyweight. What do you think?
Yeah, Natalia Silva historically has always been my girl. Like I'm pretty high on her. I remember I bet her as a dog in her debut against Jazz, where she looked really good, right? Like really good takedown defense. Always been a really good striker, solid grappling, just kind of the full package. And it also just kind of seems like as these women are starting to age out, she's kind of the new blood. Um, on a perfect run in the UFC, nasty. I think it was a spinning back kick against Bleda, like way back in her. I think it was her second or third fight, which is nasty. She's very dynamic on the feet, has good takedown defense. Probably her biggest win in her last was Alexa Grasso, and I know Grasso didn't look great, but Silva, man, just looked really well rounded. Won the striking exchanges. Grasso didn't really come super close with any takedowns or any grappling, so she looked really good. But at what number are you kind of just forced into playing Rose? Like I think this line's pretty crazy. Rose historically, maybe not on the best run right now, but has that win over Miranda Maverick. Lost to Aaron Blanchfield, who I'm very high on, and that's like a way different matchup than Natalia Silva, right? Like Blanchfield's gonna wrestle all day and very good top control. And Natalia is just kind of a striker. And historically, it has not been super easy to just stand and strike with Rose Namajunas. I mean, Wei Lee couldn't do it. The only one really who comes to mind is Furo, who is so much bigger, like so much bigger. She was giving up a ton of size, and Furo just kind of manhandled her. So for that reason, I think as this number keeps ballooning up, it's kind of a system play on Rose, like as crazy as it sounds, but she has the back class. Natalia Silva's still young. I didn't think Grasso looked good in that fight, so like definitely a good win, but I don't put as much stock into it as I should probably. So yeah, for that reason, I think Rose. There's a world where she wins a decision here. What about you?
They disagree. It's happened.
Oh, yeah. So
I
mm,
totally get the dog shot, and I don't hate it. I really don't. Rose Namajunas, 14-7. This is her 18th UFC fight. She's 12-6 in the UFC. She is broke out. She broke out in the UFC very, very early in her career. She's won three of her last four. She's on a nice little run now. She's been fighting at or near the top of the division since 2017. Won all three ways, mostly by decision. Lost all three ways, mostly by decision. A wealth of experience fighting the highest level. Wei Lee, Joanna, you name it. She's fought them. Solid boxing, good distance management, good jab. Her best work is done standing. Recently, she dropped Cortez round one. Beautiful, great punch that dropped her. I will say that she is defensively sound on the feet. Her only KO loss was a slam by Andrade, and that woman is
you
like a
said it.
little
I'm in.
meatball pit bull. Like getting slammed by her would probably knock me out too. I will say that She has some ground game of her own. She had a nasty trip in round two against Blanchfield, shot some of her own takedowns against Cortez, hit him in rounds 2 and 4. Solid takedown defense herself, really good at defending the body lock takedown attempts. Showed good takedown defense in 2 of 4 against Blanchfield. She was taken down in 3 and 5 in round two against Cortez, so seems to shoot around 50% when trying to defend takedowns against the highest level. Once she's taken down, she does seem controllable. Blanchfield could control her. Cortez couldn't. So it's kind of like, it seems like against the highest level, she's definitely susceptible and vulnerable on the ground. However, Silva on the other side, I think she is perhaps the hottest prospect at flyweight, and by that I don't mean looks. That sounded weird. She is the best prospect at flyweight. Also very pretty. You know
Yes,
what I
yes,
mean.
yes.
But
Good overall.
she is, I think, the best thing at flyweight coming up right now. 19-5-1, won and lost all 3 ways. Hasn't lost since 2017. Most losses early in her career, 7-0, undefeated in the UFC. Super fast, super technical striker. She tends to hang out at kicking range, standing, which is pretty unique. Rose does better in the boxing range, but I think Natalia Silva prefers a little bit of a farther range. Great takedown defense, 90+%. Jazz couldn't take her down. I believe I was on Jazz in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. I'm only saying that because I was such a Jazz guy, still am. So I'm assuming I was on her. Jasmine couldn't take her down. Jasmine got taken down twice. She got reversed once and she got tripped. So perhaps we haven't seen much of that takedown bag from Silva because she hasn't had to use it. But I think potentially she could be put into that upper echelon of takedown artists at women's flyweight that could take down Rose. So I'm not taking that away as a possibility here. She has a gross sidekick, hits all 3 targets, hits you in the legs, hits you in the body, hits you in the head. Maintains her speed the entire fight. Great evasive movement on the outside, circles well. Good defensively in the clinch. You saw against Andrade, she survived every single clinch exchange there against someone who hits way harder in the pocket. So for this prediction, I think Natalia Silva, like I said, hottest thing at 125, undefeated in the UFC, great striker. On the feet, I think she's a little better than Rose, especially if she can keep it at the range she wants, which I think she will with those kicks. I don't think Rose can take her down. I think this stays on the feet if Silva wants it to stay on the feet. And like I said, kicking range, this is going to be Silva's day. This is going to be Silva's fight. So I think she's going to point fight her way to victory here. I think that she is a fair favorite. The line is probably a little wide. I think she should be maybe in the -200s, but definitely a fair favorite. My prediction here is Natalia Silva by decision. That is at -225. So while it's a very likely outcome, it's not great value. I would be interested in the striking numbers for Silva. Very interested. I'd also be interested in Rose's under takedown number because I just don't think if it's 0.5, I would take the under. Finally, if you want to stab here, it's kind of wild, but Silva KO at +550 just kind of interests me a little. I just think she's that good. I don't think it's likely, but I just think it's an interesting little stab. But definitely interested in the fighter props. Silva overstrike numbers. Rose takedowns under, maybe a parlay. That would certainly be a chunky parlay there. So kind of a weird one, but some nice angles there if that's what you're into. Next, we got the big boys again. Man, our lineup here is feeding me the big boy fights. I'm not upset about it. We have Waldo Cortez Acosta at -320, fighting Derek Lewis at +260. For Waldo Cortez Acosta, as you know, I'm Dominican Papi. Que lo que? Waldo Cortez Acosta, dude, 16-2. I was a Acosta hater until I wasn't. And now I'm an Acosta lover, dude. Salsa boy, let's go. 16-2, 11 UFC fights. He's 9-2. 2-win streak by knockout. Poked in the eye by Ante Delija. Kind of did a gesture at Tom Aspinall during that whole fiasco. Did lose to Pavlovich. And your GOAT, Rogerio de Lima. He's only ever lost by decision, which is a great look at heavyweight. Great look. Never been finished. I love that at heavyweight. He had 2 knockouts in November. I'm not sure how many fighters you can say that about. Pretty fast heavyweight. Good jab, good leg kick, good on the outside. He's not one of the heavyweights that crashes in normally. He's a heavyweight that's really good on the outside. Great distance management. He can fade just outside of shots, which is why Pavlovich couldn't catch him. Great chin. Like I said, I love a heavyweight fighter that has been finished. Solid volume, good power. Clearly, I mean, it's heavyweight, so everyone has good power. Derek Lewis on the other side, perhaps one of my favorite heavyweight fighters. 29-12, 30 UFC fights, 20-10, KO king of the UFC. Lost all 3 ways, mostly by knockout. Last 6 wins by knockout. He's won 3 of his last 4. He recently KO'd the up-and-comer Taliesin Teixeira. I had D-Lu by knockout. That was a huge hit for me. Poor takedown defense, but I don't see that being a huge issue here. He did have that crazy flying knee KO against your GOAT, to name drop again, Roger de Lima. God, I love this guy, Derek Lewis. Takes his pants off after each fight. It's the only man that I get excited when he takes his pants off. He's just the man. I love him. Um, every chance to bet Derek Lewis I like to take. Here, I just can't do it. I think this fight stays on the feet for as long as it lasts. Derek is no stranger to turning away prospects, as I mentioned, but Acosta now is more proven than a prospect. He snuck his way up in the rankings. We all tried to, kind of turn our cheek and ignore him, but he's here. He's no longer a prospect, and he's an established contender. Unlike Taliesin, he's now fought some of the best. Acosta, he's got great speed. He's good on the outside. Plus, his chin hasn't been cracked. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Derek Lewis, but it's yet to be cracked. I think he can stay out of trouble, kind of the same way he did with Pavlovich. But this time, I think he can actually win and put on more of a pace. I see him winning either via a late KO or maybe by decision. That being said, Lewis KO is always live. My prediction here would be Acosta round 2 knockout. For betting angles, I do like the over 1.5 at -145. I also like, obviously, if you want to take a value stab, taking a Lewis KO stab. I'll never not take a Lewis KO stab, just under +400. But the main bet here I don't mind the over 1.5. I just think Acosta's hard to find. And I think he avoids Derek Lewis early because of that, mythical power. What do you think?
Yeah, no. So I'm gonna have to agree. I guess to start, I was never a Cortez Acosta guy either. I just like something about him. I didn't love his game, but I mean, he's proved me wrong. Like he's on a nice little run. I bet Shamil the Blob Gaziv, thinking it's Cortez was on short notice and he would cage push him a little bit, and he looked a little bit like flabby. But man, no, did he smoked the Blob pretty bad. Good KO. I think that was the first time Gaziv's ever been KO'd. Or like actually stopped. The Rosenstrike fight was stopped because he was literally going into cardiac arrest. So I guess a little bit different. The Delia fight was a weird situation. He got eye poked. I thought Delia stopped him. I had fight doesn't go. They continue. I was all mad, and then Cortez Acosta knocks Delia out. And I think Delia is like a kind of a good like measuring stick here because he's primarily a boxer, uses his hands the most, got very fast hands. Historically not the most durable, but not many guys are in heavyweight because everyone's so big. Nice little win over Sergey Spivak where he went the distance, and I think that's what separates Acosta to the rest of the division is great durability and really good cardio for his size. Like he moves really well. He's a 265 or heavyweight, 6'4", so big, moves really well in and out style, uses his jab really well. And yeah, I just think Lewis at this stage of his career again could kind of KO anybody, and that will always be a thing. KO Taliesin Teixeira, who is very unknown, has never really been any sort of extended, hasn't really fought anybody, so it's kind of hard to be like, oh, that's a monumental win. Knocked out Rodrigo Nascimento, who I don't think is horrible, but again, that's a way different matchup than this. Gelton Almeida took him down. No idea how Almeida didn't sub him. That was very frustrating. But yeah, and then that crazy flying knee KO against my boy De Lima. But yeah, I just think I actually am the opposite. I think this finishes early. Like, I know what a hot take, but I think Waldo has shown he's starting to kind of sit down on his shots, and Lewis has been finished a ton. And I just think the speed of it for Waldo is crazy. Now, I would not play the money line on Waldo. I think that's a ridiculous number. Like, I think it makes a little bit of sense, but you're always inherently going to have risk with a big price tag against Lewis. So yeah, I don't mind the under 1.5 or even fight ends in 1. I think it covers both sides. Like, Lewis has been finished a ton. Cortez Acosta is a lot quicker. Lewis could KO anybody in 1. So yeah, the under would be how I play this.
We will see. I think there's a chance that Acosta plays the evasive game, avoids the early power,
It
builds
picks
late.
him apart. That's
See,
fair.
we do
Definitely.
seem to agree on the Acosta KO side. Just a bit of a debate as to when.
Yeah.
I predict late too, but big difference. I said over 1.5, big whoop. I could be wrong. Um, but
Me too. Me too. They could stare at each other early. I might be wrong too, but yeah.
I see. I mean, if I were to fight Derek Lewis, I'd stare at him early. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't
Um,
exchange, man. Don't exchange.
don't exchange with Derek Lewis. That's like written down on the Rosetta Stone. For the co-main event here, we have Sean O'Malley -200 fighting Song Yadong at +170. Sean claiming he's going to stiffen Yadong. I'm not sure if that is really what's going to happen. That's just Sean O'Malley humor for you. For this fight, Sean O'Malley. 18-3, 14 UFC fights, 10-3 with one no contest. Two of those losses out of those three to Marab. The other one to Marlon Vera because of that injury. Won all three ways, mostly by knockout. Lost all three ways, but never truly KO'd. It was just that injury that shows up as a KO. Definitely most vulnerable in the wrestling and on the ground. I will say it was getting touched a lot on the blitz by Marab, which is definitely like a little bit worrying because that's supposedly his strength. Undoubtedly a fast and precise striker, undoubtedly a sniper. The Eddie Wineland KO is my favorite demonstration of that vintage Sean O'Malley. Song Yadong on the other side, 22-8-1, 15 UFC fights, 11-3-1, won three of his last four, wins by KO and decision, loses by decision mostly, has been knocked out. The Sanhagen doctor stoppage KO rather, so not truly knocked out, but doctor stoppage. Good technical striker, fairly conventional in style. The definition of a very proficient conventional striker. Good pace, good distance management, no wasted movements, good takedown defense, even though it probably doesn't come into play here. Fast, great power, defensively responsible, some takedowns. He took down Yan in round one, Peter Yan, impressive. So for this fight, I think that Yadong has the better ability to bring the fight to the ground, but I think this one does stay on the feet. Both these guys could get a knockout at any point, but I do like this fight to go all three. I slightly favor O'Malley over the 3 rounds just because of his ability to be on the outside and his length. But there's definitely some really good value on Song Yadong here. My prediction is a Sean O'Malley decision. In terms of betting angles, I like going the distance at -200 more than anything. But there also is some value on Song Yadong money line, Song Yadong KO, Song Yadong decision. Depending how you feel about him here, definitely some value. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only human. I kind of have to play Song Yadong at this number. Historically, an O'Malley hater. I just think he's a product of insanely good matchmaking, especially up until his like last 4 fights, where he won the title. He couldn't really dodge anybody anymore. He had to kind of get the top echelon guys. But I mean, I just look back at his run. Like Eddie Wineland was all the way shot at that point. Marlon Vera, he like kicked his nerve and it broke his leg. Thomas Almeida all the way shot. Moutinho probably should have never been in the UFC. Paiva, where did he go? I don't even know where he's been. Like which at the time was not a horrendous win, but like all right, he's a flyweight that they just brought in to get KO'd. Looked horrendous against Pedro Munoz and then just poked him in the eye. So I mean, I don't know how much stock you put into that one. And then yeah, beat Peter Yan apparently. I have no idea how he beat Peter Yan. That seemed pretty clearly 29-28 Peter Yan. Knocked out Aljamain Sterling, and yes, sick KO. Aljamain Sterling, one of the greater bantamweights. Very weird forcing Sterling to take that fight on very short notice relative to like a champion level camp. And caught him, whatever. He defended the takedowns well, looked good. Marlon Vera did absolutely nothing in that fight. And the thing that sticks out to me was he had moments in the first Marab fight, but in the second Marab fight, did it not look like he just quit? Like he kind of the front choke was not even fully locked in, and this is Marab, who's historically not a huge finisher at all, right? Let alone submissions, and he tapped almost instantly, and I was like, oh man, has this guy just made a bunch of bread and he's kind of done fighting? Like, what does he fight for at this point? Like he's always a good striker. He's big for the division, rangy, good kicks. Will switch stances, good switch hitter. But I mean, I've always loved Song Yadong. Like he, a student of the game, right? He was in the UFC at like 20 years old. On a beat that was a weird fight, but he was having a ton of moments against Cejudo. It ended in eye poke, which sucks, but I think he was on it. Fair to say he was on to win that. He took the first round off of Peter Yan with got on top, had really good top control. And I think that's a great path to go here, at least attempt it and mix it in to let his hands go. Like historically extremely durable, has eaten a ton of bombs from good fighters, very good power. Like he definitely stings guys, will punch to the body. He's a team alpha male guy with Uriah Faber, so his wrestling's always getting better. Very athletic. And I just think his power doesn't fade. Like that KO against, like, I would say that's a prime Ricky Simone. He did it in the 5th round and smoked him. Yeah, I just think you could argue that O'Malley's kind of like the Sanhagen fight, where they have similar like archetypes, similar style and all that stuff. I do think Sanhagen's better. But and I guess he kind of just couldn't really get on the inside and get his hands going. But again, I just think at this price, I don't know. Like, how does O'Malley cover -200 if he goes to decision? Do you love that? Like, I know they probably will give him any close round, but I think Song could have moments. And the last thing I will bring up, I know I'm kind of rambling, is Peter Yan did really hurt him. I think it was the second, whatever round he won for sure. Peter Yan hurt O'Malley pretty badly with a straight right. And I mean, I think that's Song's best weapon. So yeah, for that reason, I don't mind a Song Yadong play. I think if there's any sort of grappling upside in this fight, it's him like mixing in takedowns. And maybe he could just outwork him. Or I mean, I pray to God he gets a KO, but I don't think we're that lucky.
I will say I do still slightly lean O'Malley over those 3 rounds, but you may have just talked me into a little Yadong stab. But like I said, definitely worth the value, and you might have just talked me into it. So we will
Especially
see.
what O'Malley said, man. Now you have to fade him.
Dude, he will not stiffen Yadong. I can assure you. If I could bet fight to not have a stiffened Yadong, I'd bet that. Not happening.
It's a lock.
Main event. This is what everyone's waiting for. This is the UFC Interim Lightweight Championship. While Topuria goes and handles his family issues he's currently having. Justin Gaethje, minus 200. Paddy Pimblett at plus 170. I believe this may be a little wider now. Justin Gaethje, 26-5, 14 UFC fights.
Sorry.
He's 9-5. Been ranked in lightweight for years and years. Paddy Pimblett, the newcomer, got all the sponsorships and all the fame. What do you think here?
Yeah, sorry about cutting you off. The lines flipped, obviously. Patty's the favorite, Gaethje's the dog, right?
You were absolutely. I didn't realize that.
No,
Yes,
that's all me,
correct.
man. I should know this. You gotta fire the slides guy, bro. What's going on?
I am reading now. Paddy Pimblett at minus 230. Justin Gaethje at plus 190.
Yes.
What do you got here?
So ignore the lines. Oh, my bad. So I think this is a tough one. First, I don't really think this should be for the interim title because I think there's 2 guys in the division, 3 guys in the division currently that I would 1000% pick against both these guys. That being Holloway, Oliveira, obviously, and Saryukian, and obviously Ilya, but he's the champ. So this fight doesn't really make sense, but at this point, it's a good fight. It's for an interim title. Looking forward to it. I think historically Gaethje has all the tools to kind of make Paddy look silly here, but I just don't think he's the same guy. Like that win over Fiziev is pretty good. Like Fiziev's a really good striker. The problem is Fiziev got on top of him, and he's never really grappled in any of his MMA fights. Fiziev. So yeah, I don't know. You don't love that. His submission defense has always been kind of iffy, even though he's been subbed by Khabib and Charles Oliveira. Like no shame in that, but it just kind of seems like once he gets taken down, it's almost an instant tap every time he's been in that situation. But man, he's a banger. He's tough. He's a dog. Like good hands, really good power, great cardio. You really have to kill that guy to get him out of there. And I think like I look at the his last like major win was the Poirier win with the head kick, which was sick, right? But I did think Poirier was starting to kind of cook him a little bit, even though the fight was still early. And I played Poirier in that fight, of course. And I think Gaethje looked good. He got the KO or whatever, but I don't know. I think the writing was kind of on the wall, especially the Max Holloway fight on 300, where he's always taken a ton of damage, but that was like life-altering damage, and then to get face planted with like a second left is brutal. But I don't love Pimblett's striking. Like he's looked horrendous striking in some fights. Like Luigi Vendramini clipped him pretty bad early. I know that was his debut, but clipped him bad. He ended up getting the finish back. Jared Gordon should have beaten him in a fight that was pretty much all striking, and Gordon's a solid enough striker, but he's not on the Gaethje level. Ferguson had moments late, which is pretty scary to say because that was in 2023. It seems like he gassed out, working himself too hard. Bobby Green was looking fine until he shot into the arm triangle choke. Definitely don't go to the round with this guy. Like he's a very good grappler. I don't think anyone's holding that against him. But just his striking defense, I don't love his volume, his output. His cardio has been suspect at times, and you're expecting him to like wrestle hard for 5 rounds or strike hard for 5 rounds. I don't really see it. I think at this number, like Gaethje in the twos, like +2 in the +2s, I think I'm gonna take him one more time, and I'm prepared to look silly. If he gets tapped early, it is what it is. That's Pimblett's win condition. But I think he definitely has moments on the feet. What about you?
Oof, this is a tough one.
Okay.
Gaethje, as mentioned, he's fought the who's who at lightweight. Interim champion in 2020 after defeating a very scary Tony Ferguson back then. 2 undisputed title fights, 1 BMF title fight. He's 37 now. He's won all 3 ways. He's known for his knockout wins. He's won 3 of his last 4. He lost by that nasty Max Holloway KO. Finishing all his losses, important to note here. Great clinch and pocket striking, some of the best in the UFC. Disgusting uppercuts, hard leg kicks that I'm sure Joe Rogan's going to mention 1,500 times.
100%.
His chin has been cracked several times badly in recent years. Dropped by Oliveira multiple times before the submission. Obviously, the Holloway knockout at the end of the 5th round. Not a bad wrestler, can get taken down by the most elite. His chaotic style he has also leaves him open to getting dropped, to slipping when he kicks, stuff like that. And I think that's something that's where Paddy can really take advantage. Gaethje's known to slip a lot. He kicks so hard that he throws himself off. He's punched himself off balance. And in those little moments, I'm worried about what Paddy could do. Because that's all he needs. Paddy, 23-3, 7 UFC fights, 7-0. Definitely less impressive comp, less experience, obviously. Won all three ways, mostly by submission. Lost by decision and submission. As he says, he's a scouser. He doesn't get knocked out, never been KO'd. He looks huge at lightweight. Good reach. Hard leg kicks as well. Good striking on the outside. Definitely been showing improvements in the striking. Definitely better in the Chandler fight than it has previous. Great grappling, that's his foundation. Great offensive takedowns. You don't see it much, but in Chandler round 3, I saw it the most. He doesn't shoot as much. He doesn't shoot offensively as much as you'd expect someone with his ground pedigree. When it gets there, he has good ground control on the ground, good ground and pound. You can see that in the Ferguson fight in round 2. He does make his opponents pay for a sloppy or labored takedowns, as you saw in the Green fight. That's how it ended, obviously. I do think that he's had pretty favorable matchmaking so far. Even here, like at this rate at the top 5, this is the friendliest matchup he can be given to continue forward. So it's definitely not an accident that this has worked out for him the way it has. Definitely looked a little tired at the end of the Ferguson fight. We've never seen him go 5 in the UFC. He's gone 5 on his regional career, but never in the UFC. The later this goes, the more interesting it gets, certainly, as we could both agree. This fight should be exciting. Good first main event here for the Paramount era. I don't see this going all 5 personally. I think in the stand-up, Paddy will do better if it's outside from range, if Justin can crash the pocket. I think Gaethje has all the advantages. On the ground, Paddy has every single advantage. It should be night and day. Taking down Gaethje won't be easy, but once he's down, it may not come back up again. And like I said, those slips, those trips, that's where I really think it could happen. I do think at some point Paddy does snag the sub. Such a wild take, I know. The later this fight goes, the more interesting it gets. Paddy is definitely liable to get caught at some point. If he can send the outside, it should be okay. But again, the later this goes, the dicier it gets. Justin knows what it's like to go 5 at the top level. Paddy doesn't. My prediction, Paddy round 2 sub. For betting angles, Paddy sub, your most likely win condition, slim plus money at plus 130. Don't love the price, but if it finishes, most likely I think that's how it does. If you want to cover Gaethje's win by KO, Gaethje by KO plus 400. Great value. That's Gaethje's likely win condition, I believe. The under 3.5, good parlay piece at minus 200. But I do believe that in terms of finishing, this is fairly binary. Paddy sub, Gaethje KO, just a matter of who gets to implement their game plan better. That is a review of the full card. UFC 324, definitely excited to get back rolling here. It's been too long. From a really top level, I think my favorite bets here, the Freeman underdog, love. The Arnold Allen underdog, love. Charles Johnson as a moderate favorite, really like that as well. And lastly, I have a funny feeling about that Ateba Gauthier round 2 KO stab at plus 300. Any bets you want to highlight here?
Yeah, so the first thing I placed actually I did yesterday was Ty Miller by KO and Smotherland on the money line. I think both those are pretty solid. I do like the under in the Hernandez fight.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what else? The under 1.5 in the Modestas fight. I have to tell the Atiba round 2 with you just because like we're watching the card together and that's if you feel it, man, that's all I need is as a reason. Definitely Arnold Allen as another dog shot. I don't think I'll get to Rose, but I definitely won't play Silva on the money line myself. What else? Song Yadong. And then I love the under 3.5 in the Gaethje fight, or fight doesn't go if you want to be safer and parlaying them with either Smotherman or maybe the over in the Umar fight, like you said, probably isn't a bad spot either. Yeah, I think really looking forward to this card. I don't know about where everyone else is, but I'm getting snowed in on Sunday, so I can sleep in. You know what I mean? It's amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's been too long with no UFC. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'm super excited for this. For everyone watching this card, enjoy. For everyone who stuck around this long video, thank you for sticking around. Thanks for the support, and for everyone placing some bets here on UFC 324. Best of luck to you. Catch you guys next time.